Now it is possible for the user to enter an empty string. Let's restart our program, and I'm going to close this console window and just try to debug again, and this time I'll just hit enter key, and you see that after entering an empty string, the output displays that this is an empty string. So it's possible to enter an empty string using input. So this is why it's also important to have a macro that measures the size of the buffer. Basically, this buffer, when it's populated with some characters, it is important that we can find out what is the actual length of input typed by the user. I'll remove this breakpoint, and the string 0 length macro returns back the length of the buffer, which essentially measures, right? So it takes our buffer is allocating 12 characters right here. We know that the user is capable of entering up to 10 characters, but if we enter something like ABC or whatever, right? So and then there will be new line and carriage return, but the input macro is going to replace this with null terminating character right here. So this 0 terminated string length macro is going to return the size of the actual input before the null terminating character. So this is what it's going to measure, and the result is going to be provided in register EAX. Okay, so in this demo right here, register EAX is going to be populated by whatever value we type, or whatever string we type when we prompt it for our input. So this is a pretty simple macro to use, of course. Again, the flags, no flags are affected by this macro. D2a Macro is really stands for double word to Ascii. So this converts double word to Ascii string of characters. So how does it work? It needs two parameters. So this macro, D2a, needs two parameters. The destination, and here I call it simply D2a buffer. Okay, so this is the buffer where a conversion of an integer to Ascii string of characters is going to take place. And then it takes input which can be register or memory. Okay, so we can specify memory location, or we can specify a register like this EAX register. So this D2a will convert the value in register EAX and convert it to a set of characters in this buffer, D2a buffer, which is, by the way, is configured as 11 characters, 11 bytes long, and it also includes the 0 terminating character. So this is important to have it configured like this, because D2a results, the results of this, is that notice that the idea of this conversion is conversion to a signed value. So we take the 32-bit range of values. And so the values can be from minus 2 billion to plus 2 billion. Okay, so these are the minimum and maximum values of signed integer. So if you count all digits right here, including this minus sign, it will be 11. So this is why we need to the largest possible result of conversion of integer like this into a string of characters is going to take 11 bytes. Okay, so that's the largest one. The positive will be only 10 bytes. right? So the commas are not inserted automatically. Here is just they're just used for readability. But this is why it's just a standard approach that if you want to use this macro to convert 32-bit value to a string of characters, your buffer, your target buffer, has to be 11 characters long. So notice, because this macro will always succeed, it's always okay to take a 32-bit value and be able to convert as long as we have enough space over here. So no flags or registers are affected. Everything is going to be just done. So now in the progression of this demo program, we also demonstrate a macro which is called itoa, which is conversion of a 16-bit signed integer to a string. So this is there are two macros available here. So if you specify a 16-bit value, you can also use itoa macro, which is very similar to this, but this time the macro has to be the itoa buffer for this macro has to be 6 characters long. I'm not going to use 16-bit data manipulation in our laboratory, but I'm just going to demonstrate that this information or this second macro is also available to work with 16-bit signed integers. So if you take register AX, which is the half of the size of EAX, you can also use this type of conversion.